Hey guys, it's Tara. Hey, it's been a while since I posted. Um, I hope everybody's doing okay. Um, yeah, I did the allergy test and I am not allergic, but it doesn't say anything about sensitivity, but I'm not allergic, so that is good. So now I'm going to proceed with my surgery and I'm just waiting for the scheduler to get back to me to do the surgery. Um, so I've been thinking about a lot. I've been wanting to talk about my trauma and where it stemmed from and how it made me into the person who I am now. Um which I'm learning to embrace a lot of that. It doesn't make you a bad person because you've been through stuff and you learn to grow from it, and that's the way it should be. You learn to grow from stuff. So, moving forward, um my trauma came from very when I was very little. I'm going to get into this um portion by portion. So, I'm going to start by this being part 1. Um this all stemmed from when I was a baby. And yes, I mean baby. A lot of people think, "Oh, well, you're a baby, you don't remember." Believe it or not, that's where you learn to dissociate at that time. When you start going through trauma, you dissociate. And what I mean by dissociate, it means and I'm going to describe it in my terms is your mind when you're when the trauma is in front of your face, if you're going through the trauma right at that point in time, your mind will start to separate itself from yourself. Basically, your mind is pulling away to take you to a safe spot because your mind can't handle it. So, when you're a baby, you can think about how trauma would affect a baby and their little minds. So, I also want to bring up and kind of compare this to um what sharks do when you flip them upside down. Um when you flip a shark upside down, it's called tonic immobility. And basically the shark, when you turn it around and it's on its belly, it becomes immobile. I guess there's several reasons why the shark does that, but it's kind of, the shark is not paralyzed, but it it dissociates. Yeah. So, so I kind of want to compare it to kind of like that. Um, but the thing is that, um, oh, I apologize about that. I had to cut that out for a minute because my children decided to interrupt me. So, I'm back. But, okay, back to the thing I was talking about is tonic immobility. Okay. Basically, when the shark gets flipped upside down, it stops moving. It becomes almost like paralyzed, but it's not. Um, there's some, I guess, research that is done. The reason why sharks do this is for mating purposes, and I have to read more up on it. But it was compared to that, like like it almost dissociates, kind of in its own way, but in other purposes. So, um, moving forward from that, but as a baby, I went through a lot of stuff. My mom had me at a very young age. She was 17 and she wanted to be with her friends and she wanted to go out and party and have a good time. And I can imagine, now that I look back, me and my mom, we didn't get along very well as I was growing up. But now that I look back, I can understand. She was a very young mom. So, my grandparents took care of me. And she would leave me home with my grandparents instead of being, a stay-at-home mom. She would leave me with them. Well, there was a point in time to where I was told a story, um, and it was confirmed it was true by family members that she ended up taking me to her boyfriend's house at the time. And and they left me to go do something, and they left me there with her boyfriend's brother. Her boyfriend's brother was, I guess, mentally disabled, as far as I heard, and I ended up getting abused. They found him abusing me in my bassinet or wherever I was at the time. So there's one case of trauma. Okay. So then moving forward, getting a little bit older and still very young, there was another time to where I was told that she wanted to give me up for adoption, and she was yelling and screaming at me because I wasn't behaving, and she called the adoption agency, literally called the adoption agency. I've heard this from my grandparents and my aunt, and they had to intervene to stop her from doing that. It was very sad to hear, honestly. So, I mean, like I said, she was young. She was young, and she didn't know what she was doing. And abuse tends to come with abuse. Regardless, she abused me. She was abused before. And people think, oh, smacking, beating your kid is abuse. No, mental abuse is abuse too. It's abuse. So, I'm pretty sure she's been mentally, abused and by people from school. She was always a big girl and she got picked on. My mom also had a mental disability as well. So I can imagine where her mind was at that time. She couldn't handle me. It was too much. Then later down the road, she ended up pregnant with my sister. And that seemed to be better, I guess, in a way. She seemed to be more of a mother. I guess, it took my sister to make her want to be more settled, which is awesome in one way, I guess, because then, it made her more responsible. But, it didn't fix that issue, the fact that I was abused by her and her boyfriend's brother. So, I had to do a lot of forgiving and a lot of forgiveness for her, to be honest. And later down the road, she found my father. I never really knew my father. So she found my father, and then I met him and started, every other week going and spending time with him, and then other things occurred with him. And this was sexual abuse. I did not know this. And until I talked to my grandmother, and my grandmother brought it to my mom's attention. So then we ended up reporting it. That was the worst thing I've ever felt as a child. I think out of everything, that was the one thing that I've always carried over my head. And I'll get into that in a minute. I was sexually abused. It was not a rape, it was a molestation. And I told my grandmother out of hopes that she would keep it a secret. I didn't want to get my father in trouble because he's my dad. So I told her, she told my mom, and then my mom took me to some unit to where I had to tell them what happened to me. And it was the worst damn thing ever. They forced me to tell them what happened to me. And the thing was, is I felt so guilty. I felt so god awful, dirty. They made me use dolls to show them because I wouldn't talk. I was so quiet. I would not talk to them and tell them. I didn't want to get them in trouble. And after I did, and they made it to where he was no longer able to see me. And if he did, it was supervised. I could go to his mom's house, but it was all supervised. It was all supervised. And I did not like it. I did not like how I got him in trouble. And I've always had that guilt over my head. And the guilt kicked in even worse later down the road because my father ended up committing suicide later. And then, even to top it off, I had to hear details of his suicide at a very young age, which can really traumatize a child. It really can. I mean, what I went through was unbelievable. I mean, I know there's probably people who've had it worse, but everybody's experience is different. And we should never say whose is worse than whose, you know. It's different, and everybody takes it different and perceives it different. So we should never judge. But it was horrible for me. And it was hard. It was so hard to get over it. It took a while. And I'm still struggling to this day. Especially with dating. Dating is hard for me. To be close to someone, it is really hard for me. So I wanted to touch base with everyone today about that in general. So I wanted to start there. When I figure out part 2, I will get back to you. But I do appreciate everybody who listens to me and who is sweet enough to join me on my journey and my healing and my van talk. Oh, I got me a thumbnail to start this off with. Not an ending yet, but I got a thumbnail. So, and I think it was really cute how I did it all. So I can't wait for everybody to see it. And just let me know in the comments what you think of my thumbnail. Thank you. And we'll talk later. See y'all later. Bye.